What's up, guys? Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host, Caleb. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons, Newsome, you rock. Now, let's get into today's video. And today we're just going to go over the cards that I don't play in casual. Whether I think the card just speeds up the format too much, the card creates unfair play patterns, or the card is just genuinely unfun to play against and it really just makes the game longer. Now, this video was kind of made out of necessity. I've gotten a lot of people asking me about this, and then additionally, I've just seen a lot of comments of people that have just quit Magic because they think the format sped up too much, and really, I think a lot of people need to have that Rule Zero conversation, and they need to be playing the game the way they want to play it, right? Now, this is not me telling you not to play these cards, it's just what I find works for my playgroup. I kind of like a game to go longer than normal, or just I want everybody's deck to do the thing, and at the end of the day, I want my deck to do the thing. So I like to see a lot of synergistic gameplay, a lot of all the engines working together, 4 cards that kind of just explode and get you a ton of value, and it results in you winning the game. Now, I understand that that's not how everybody likes to play, and I even from time to time love playing CEDH, but when I'm playing CEDH, I'm sitting down and I know everything is all, everything's fair. You can play whatever you want, go balls to the wall. Casual's a little more complicated, and because again, everybody likes to play Magic differently, so this is more so you really needing to connect with the people that want to play the Magic or want to play Magic the way you want to play Magic. But with that out of the way, let's get into the cards that I don't play in Casual Commander. Right after a word from our sponsors, Into the AM. Guys, again, I love these shirts. They're just super comfortable, they fit you perfectly, they taper at the sleeves and just create a really good feel and a really good look. So if you guys want to upgrade your wardrobe, you can use code DECKTECH to get 10% off your order. Again, these graphic tees, just amazing. I can't speak highly of them enough. Now, let's get into the video. The first thing I do want to mention is fast mana, guys. And again, like I said, I like those grindier, more synergistic type decks, so you won't find any fast mana in any of my deck techs. Now, the exception to this, obviously CEDH, and then Sol Ring. Sol Ring's just so cheap and so widely accepted, everybody should put it in their deck. But the big reason I think these cards really speed up the format and are really a lot better than people initially think is because having 2 Sol Rings in your deck, like let's say a Mana Crypt, just makes you twice as likely to get a turn 1 either Mana Crypt or Sol Ring, putting you 2 turns ahead of your opponents. Now, God forbid you have both of them in your hand, yeah, it's going to be arch enemy and you probably will just run away with that game. I've also heard an argument for the Moxen, especially the Moxen that have you discard a card, right? They're like, you're giving up cards to get mana, so it should be more fair, right? And to that I kind of say, if your deck is willing to give away cards that so that it can go faster, it makes me even more scared and more suspicious of the deck, right? If you're willing to give up your card advantage, some of the most powerful things in the deck, having cards in your hand, so the deck can go faster, it makes me think you're playing really efficient cards, and going faster is just going to get you to the win a lot faster than everybody else. So again, that kind of like sends off alarm bells, red flags, whatever you want to say. So taking all the fast mana out of everyone's decks just kind of makes sure and really ensures that everybody's playing at the exact same level, which is what I like to see. Now, moving on to the next thing that I really don't enjoy playing with is A plus B combos. What that means is, let's say we have Aggravated Assault and Selvala on the battlefield, and let's just say your commander is 5 power. This creates infinite combat steps very easily, and you only need 2 cards in your deck. So whenever 2 cards just create an infinite combo, I really don't enjoy that. So I try to take out any 2-card infinite combos I can while building a deck. Now, I will make some exceptions here and there if maybe the mana value is insane, like maybe it's a 2-card infinite combo, but both the cards are like 6+ mana. That's a 12 mana win the game. That's kind of fair. But once you start looking at, again, Aggravated Assault Selvala, this is like turn 3 Aggravated Assault, turn 4 Savala, and then you can even like cast your commander in there somewhere. You can even like Savala first, then commander, then cast aggravated assault, catch them off guard. Like these ones are just really efficient. So I try to get rid of any A plus B combos, especially if it combos with the commander. Like I said, like let's for instance Zach Zara with Freed from the Real, just infinite mana and the outlets in your command zone. Yes, this is when it creates some really feel bad moments. And at the end of the day, you could win the game out of nowhere, right? Someone could be arch enemy. They could be going for the win. They've set up their engine. They put a lot of work in. And then out of nowhere, you play 2 cards and win the game. And that's kind of where the feel bads moments come from. And at the end of the day, after pulling these combos off a couple times myself, because everybody goes into their phase of, I want to play the powerful cards and I'm going to just play a lot of combos. I'm no exception to that. I definitely did that as well. After doing it a couple times, it kind of loses the fun for me. And if it doesn't, then maybe CEDH is the format for you, which I said I do. I'm loving me a bit of CEDH right now. Moving on to the next thing I kind of don't like in casual is extra turns. And mostly it's just because extra turns just make the game a lot longer, right? I kind of want everybody to have the same allotted amount of time during a game. So when one player's like hogging all the time and it's not really getting them closer to the end of the game, it really does start creating a feel bad and just adds to less games, less fun for everybody else. Now, where I think the exception might be is when these extra turns win you the game, right? If you can cast an extra turn and it wins you the game right away and it's very clear it's going to win you the game, that's a little bit different than casting an extra turn on turn 5 just so you can get an extra land drop and draw an extra card. Like I said, those are kind of the play patterns that kind of seem unhealthy to me and kind of just take a lot of time without farthering the game plan very much. Incremental value, right? So it's mostly how you're using the extra turn spells. But just to keep everything casual, I kind of just take extra turn spells out of my deck in most scenarios. Another thing I don't like to play in casual is stacks effects. Like I said, I like to see everybody to get a chance to do their thing. So when we're putting stuff like Archon of Amiri in the decks, Blood Moons, or even Collector Oofs, turning off all artifacts, that just really creates an unfun play style. And usually it only messes with 1 to 2 players, right? Some people are not playing artifacts, so the creature deck's fine, but the guy over there playing Esper artifacts is just out of the game completely, so he has to sit there for an hour or an hour and a half watching everybody else play while he just passes because someone played Collector Oof. Very frustrating, and again, kind of creates some unfun play patterns, and Collector Oof doesn't win that player the game either, right? Like, if you play a Blood Moon and you're playing against other decks that can play around Blood Moon, 9 times out of 10, it's only going to screw over one player, and everybody else gets to play the game, and the player that played Blood Moon doesn't, like, win the game off of playing Blood Moon. So it just slows the games down, and like I said, I like to let everybody do their thing, and I like to play multiple games a night, so if everybody's trying to slow everybody down, it's just going to create those groggy games that, you know, you've had them 3-4 hours, and nobody feels good after those. Not even the person that wins feels good after those. So I like to try to mitigate those as much as possible. Another thing I don't like to include in my deck is like overly pushed or very powerful cards. I'm talking stuff like your Jeweled Lotus. If it says free if your commander's on the battlefield, I don't play with it. Deflecting Squat or Deflecting Swat, Fierce Guardianship, anything that lets you cast it for free, Deadly Rollick, I don't play them in any of my decks unless we're playing CEDH. It just creates a weird power, like, if everybody's using them, you're all on the same power level. If one person's using them and nobody else is, it creates a very big power difference. Just the fact that you have free spells is really busted, especially when those are really powerful spells. Deflecting Swat, essentially a counter spell. Then you have a literal counter spell. One's a removal spell that exiles. Again, these are very powerful cards. Same with Jeweled Lotus. If you cast a Jeweled Lotus turn 1, that puts you immensely ahead of your opponents, especially if that commander can then be cast that same turn. Which 9 times out of 10, if you cast a Jeweled Lotus, your commander is coming down turn 2, if not turn 1. And again, that just creates a very feels bad scenario where it feels like you were behind from the start and there wasn't a lot that you could do counterplay wise, right? Sorry you didn't have your counter spell up turn 1. I kind of just like to mitigate those games as much as possible, you know? Like there is some scenarios where you could kind of play Jeweled Lotus and it'd be kind of fair. Like let's say your commander just cost a ton of mana, maybe like a Tiamat or something, and it just takes 3 mana off of that commander. But even then, Tiamat's super powerful and it's balanced by the casting cost of the commander. So the fact that you're playing Jeweled Lotus to kind of get rid of some of that balance already kind of does put you at a huge power advantage. So I just don't play Jeweled Lotus in any of my decks, any of the free counter spells, any of the free interaction giving to you by having your commander out. Again, Force of Will is kind of a gray area because again, it's card disadvantage, but it goes back to the thing. If you're able to toss away cards to counter other people's stuff, it already kind of speaks to the power level you're playing at, and you're probably close to CEDH at that point anyway. Moving on, another thing I really try to take out or don't include in a lot of my decks is just some really powerful cards. Like, let's talk about Orchidbow Masters. Is this card casual? I'm on the fence, but I'm really leaning towards no. The fact that wheels are just super busted in Commander and that it has Flash. Flash absolutely breaks this guy wide open because someone's just going to wheel thinking everybody's going to draw some cards, and then out of nowhere you are going to be facing down 21 damage and a 21-21 Orc. Or 22-22 Orc because it gets the ETB effect as well, because just having it on the card draw wasn't good enough. So I do disinclude Orchidbow Masters, and there's also a lot of stuff you can do. You can blink this guy, you can go ahead and run wheels yourself, especially if you're running Orchidbow Masters and have wheels in your deck, it's just that much more broken. So me personally, I don't play it, and my playgroup is kind of soft banned it if we're not playing CEDH. Another card that got that banhammer in my playgroup is Dockside Extortionist. Again, another card that I just don't think is fair and casual. It's one of the best rituals in the game and catapults you ahead of everybody else. It's responsible for winning the game on the spot in so many CEDH games, and there is the argument, well, in EDH it's not as good because people aren't on as many artifacts, but once you start including enchantments and everything, it does end up being a huge ritual 9 times out of 10, and that argument kind of falls flat for me because even if you're able to cast this turn 5 for a ton of treasures instead of turn 3, ending a game turn 5 in casual is still pretty fast for the format in my opinion. And like I said, I like to end the games probably around turn 10. So for me to want to do that and to do that consistently with everybody playing their decks and having fun, Dockside Extortionist can just create those scenarios where they 2 mana Dockside and then win the game because they got a ton of treasure tokens. Another card that I don't really play with is Ristic Study. And guys, Ristic Study is probably the best card engine or card draw engine in EDH. Even in casual, people are less likely to pay the one, so that person's going to untap with 20 plus cards. If you have any deck where you can't win the game with like 20 plus cards in your hand, you know what I mean? Like that's you kind of just get there. You kind of just get there once you untap and you're like, "Ooh, I have this massive hand." So again, Ristic Study is one of those cards I just cut because yes, it's not an A plus B combo like I was talking about earlier, but it does create a scenario where you might have won the game because of Ristic Study and not your deck, if that makes sense. If Ristic Study draw you 20 cards and you're like, "Oh, I just had everything." It's like, "Well, yeah, you had everything because you drew 20 plus cards." And then you can go to the other side. Well, you can just pay the 1 and don't give the person the card advantage. This falls into the other category that I don't like in casual, slowing the game down. Like I said, we're already playing fair magic. We're not playing fast mana. You don't really need to slow it down any more than that. So the fact that Ristic Study either contributes to unfair card advantage in one player's favor or just slowing the game down, it kind of is easy not for me to include it in any of my deck techs personally. Now, I play against several Ristic Studies in casual. I'm not against playing against it. I won't just like, you played Ristic, I'm not playing, I thought we were playing casual. But I'm just saying, for me personally in my playgroup, I think Ristic Study is... I think it's too good of a card to be played in casual, but that's probably maybe a hot take on my part. I'll admit it. So yeah, Dockside, Orchidbow Masters, Ristic Study, those are pretty much the only cards we've like just outright banned, aside from like fast mana. It's easy to say fast mana and everybody knows what you're talking about. And I always get this question when I say fast mana. They're like, well, what about rituals? Rituals are a little bit different than fast mana because they're not permanent based and you cast them and gone, and then it kind of goes into a storm archetype, which storm is a different can of worms because Storm will just take 30-minute turns, but 9 times out of 10, when the Storm player is taking 30-minute turns, they do kind of get there. So I don't know. Storm's that gray area. Just know if you're playing it, people are going to not appreciate the time you're taking to storm off. And again, I just made this video because I saw a lot of comments. We are getting more powerful commanders. We are getting more creatures that have the A+B combos. We are just getting more powerful creatures overall. And some people are quitting Magic because it's not the game that they fell in love with. But I do want to make this video to tell you guys, you can always make Magic the game you fell in love with. You just have to find the playgroup that jives with you and make sure everybody's playing at the same power level. And once you do that, again, it's the game you fell in love with to begin with, and you can start enjoying Magic the way you want. With that being said, guys, I'm going to put it into this video. I would like to thank my patrons, Newsome, Excessum, Chicken Salad, Creator. You guys are amazing. I appreciate every one of you. If you guys want to become a part of the Patreon, you can join in the description down below. Don't forget to get your awesome shirts. And with that being said, I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you in the next one.